Welcome to my girly shorts. This is a very quick run through and shows you how you would be dealing with these trousers if they had a very distinct pattern and if you wanted to put on belt loops and ties and create a proper turn-up. So you could also wear these as Bermuda pants as well and have them longer. Some people really like that for their girls. They don't like them too short. The back has got the oversized pockets again, and I've used loads of belt loops and some buttons to create a little bit of interest. I think that's a really nice way to do it. So you could try 3 fabrics instead of just the 2. So the fabric I've used for this is a nice quilting cotton. It's about 70 centimeters for the larger sizes and about 50 for the smaller. As contrast, again, I have got the gingham, and then I've also used linen to offset both fabrics. I've also want to show you this little trick here. If you fold the pocket in half and place it not with the grain but across or even diagonal, you don't have to worry about the pattern so much. Just make sure that that crease that you've just put in is actually central to the pattern where you put it. And then you want to make the leg about 8 centimeters longer. So you cut the back leg first. So you cut out the back and then you want to put the back onto the front so that you can see where the pattern sits. Now I'm using the inner leg seam, and I shouldn't have done that. Of course you need to use the outer one. I must have been so tired. But same applies here. So if you line this up with the outer leg seam, then of course you can shimmy it around so the pattern sits perfectly where it needs to sit, and then you cut your front out, and then you can cut that one out totally. This will ensure that you've got the right patterns there. And then for the pocket, when you cut this little bit out afterwards, you of course got a little template as to where the pattern needs to sit, so that when you cut your pocket out, you could place that on there first to position this under pocket, and it will work just splendid. So we need for this the facing of this trouser. I've done that in white, and also the waistband. And then also for the waistband, some violin to make it stronger. And for the ties, I've used the gingham, same as the buttons, which I think is quite lovely. And we've got some elastic again. And for the belt loops, I've cut them across the fabric again to avoid them looking too same-o. You need them as long as possible, and they're 5 centimeters wide. That is 2 inches. So we need about 7. And each one of them is about 4 centimeters long. So now we're going to start with the pockets. So you want to sew all the way around and leave a turning gap. And don't forget, this is the quick run through. If this is too fast for you, please watch the main video where I'm showing everything like really slowly. So we turn the pocket through, and then we iron the pocket. Iron the top over, and to get the other pocket exactly the same, you just want to turn it over, put the other pocket over the top, and then iron that one down. That way, of course, they're exactly the same. Now I'm going to use the triple stitch along the edge just to where the crease is. Next, I'm going to close my dart. You iron the dart towards the body middle, and then you triple stitch that dart again to make it look really nice and structural. Now we can position the pocket on, and we triple stitch that one on, and you need to make sure that you catch it at the very top, because otherwise it'll kind of flop about. Then we're going to close the center back, 1 centimeter seam allowance again, overlock the whole lot, and then we can iron that seam towards the right side, and that's really, really important. So that goes towards the right, then you triple stitch it again, moving the fabric away from the seam there, so you kind of force it apart. Next we're going to put the pocket facing onto the front and sew it into place with a 1 centimeter seam allowance. Then we want to cut back that seam allowance just like you could see it here. So 2 to 3 millimeters is very good, and then we're going to iron the facing under, but so that a little bit peeps out, so that it looks a little bit like piping. And you could now triple stitch that as well, or you could wait till later. Match up your pattern exactly. It's not so important that that pocket is in the right position. It's more important that that pattern matches up. So then you can close the pocket all the way around, 1 centimeter seam allowance, and we can remove the pins. If you haven't triple stitched that already, you need to do that before you close the rest off. Overlock the pocket, and it's actually done. It's such an easy pocket to do. Overlock your belt loops as well, both sides, and then we iron them over so that one edge sits into the other edge, and then we'll top stitch it from either side with a triple stitch again. And so they're ready, and then we can cut them to a length of 4 centimeter. And I've also secured here my pocket so it can't go anywhere, and we're going to stitch that in, and we're also going to stitch the center front now. Overlock the center front. Here I've left the knife on. If you are a beginner, I would really recommend that you disable your knife. And now you should iron that seam for the center front towards the left, so that when we now top stitch it, they're both going the same way. You wouldn't want to unpick any of that. You also want to iron a little bit of Vilene onto the front. That gives it a little bit more stability. And we're going to triple stitch all the way down the front. Now we can put together the back and the front. You again have a 1 centimeter seam allowance all the way down. And we overlock it. Then we're going to iron the seam towards the center back, and we're also going to triple stitch this seam the same way as before. And now I'm going to put my waistband on. Iron that seam into the waistband. And now we're going to turn this to the inside, and we're going to do the dart all the way up and all the way down. And then we iron up the hem 8 centimeters. And now we're going to close the inner leg seam, and then we're going to overlock the inner leg seam, and we're going on our overlocking frenzy again. So we're going to also overlock the legs now. And the darts, and don't forget they need to be ironed towards the body middle, not to the outside. I've done that wrong on every single trouser. So we overlock along the top, and now I've done this, I can top stitch where my overlocking is all the way around, and then I can just turn it up. turn in your waistband 4.5 centimeters and then pin it all the way around, and we're going to stitch right in the seam here so that it's almost invisible. And once I've done that, I can put in the elastic, and the elastic I would put the safety pin in the middle, not the lower part. That's actually easier, and then move it nice and flat, and when it's a centimeter exactly standing over, same as your dart, then you can stitch it down and it's secure so that you don't need to worry about the elastic slipping out when you do the other side. On the other side, of course, you do exactly the same. You move it through, you have that centimeter standing, you pin it, and then you stitch that one down. And there you go. Now you need to distribute the elastic all the way around, and we're going to do 2 stitching lines on top of the waistband. You could leave that off, but I think it looks really nice, so let's put those in. And then to put the button on, you might want to measure across so you can find the middle, and then you sew the button on. Now I'm going to make the tie, so fold that tie in half lengthways, and you might want to put a tip in. This one I wasn't sure about the length yet, so but you know what the length is, and it's all perfect because it's in the pattern. So do a tip if you like, and then leave a turning gap and go all the way to the end, and then you can just use a pencil, preferably not with a sharp end like I've done here, but with a dull end. But I think I was a bit tired when I did this, so and then you move it through to the turning gap and just pull it. And then get out the pencil again, of course, and iron it, so move out your seam really well. And your tie is ready now. So we need to put those belt loops on, and I think that it looks really nice if you put loads of belt loops on. So the first one is just over a centimeter over to the side, so 1.2, 1.3. Then I've put another one on the side seam, and another one on the center back, and then another one in the center of that, which incidentally is just where the dart starts, so that's optically also quite good. And the belt loop kind of just sits just over that stitching line that I've done before, just if you're wondering where I measure them. And then you turn them in at the top and then put them in roughly the same space, and you need to make sure that you leave a little bit of room there so that you can put your tie through. It looks so much nicer. If it's like really flush and really tight, it won't look so good. Move your tie through, and lucky you, you've already got the right measurements in the pattern, whereas I didn't know how much I would need, so I had to cut it back afterwards. So once I had my tie in the right place and the right length, scissor, and I cut them. Now I have hand stitched all of that, and it's basically finished. So, but you can do that from the start. So I hope this has helped you a little bit to see how you need to put it together when you have a pattern. Loads of belt loops, that is so cute. I'm actually very excited about these ones. They are my favorite. I think they're so nice. You could also make them with an eyelet, so there's a separate video for that showing you how to put a waistband on with the eyelets. Otherwise it's really all the same again. Here I've left the front pocket off, which I also think is really nice, and then I've got another option where I use the Megan pocket, but I put elastic in the top, and we have the same belt loops in the tie, but we've also got a hem trim and a bow on it. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I see you next time.